The second episode begins with Zuko throwing a temper tantrum and ripping his room apart, looking for his lost Avatar book. Iroh calms his nephew down, and they plan their next move. They will need to go to the nearest Fire Nation outpost to look for information that will help them pinpoint the location of the Avatar. And Zuko says,
I will find him!
Our three heroes are discussing what they must do next. Aang wants to go to Kyoshi Island, while Sokka wants to go home, forgetting that they already talked about why they can't do that in the previous episode. And Katara refuses to go back home because her waterbending skills have become phenomenal in such a short time. Their bag is possessed. Cue second animal sidekick that will disappear when not needed. Katara finds a message from Gran Gran in the bag and a scroll on how to learn waterbending. Her Gran Gran tells her that Katara should take what belongs to her. A problematic statement, but let's move on. Iroh goes shopping while Zuko sulks. His uncle explains why they are where they are, which is a place I forget the name of. Zuko is mad because Iroh says they need to go to the command of the garrison for information. He doesn't want anyone to know about the Avatar, and Iroh calms him down. Meanwhile, our heroes arrive on Kyoshi Island and go to Avatar Kyoshi's statue. Oh no, it's an ambush! Katara blurts out that Aang's the Avatar, and they don't believe her because there would be a sign if he was. Oh look, a sign from Creepy Statue. They're brought before the village elder, a stern lady who doesn't like visitors. Aang says he's there to learn. Katara says he's the Avatar, and that's proof that they're not a threat. Aang reveals he doesn't know much, but where he comes from, people help each other. Mother and daughter talk about kindness before Stern Lady says they can stay, but only for 48 hours. Sokka tries to sweet-talk Suki, but she doesn't understand how he can be the protector of his village and be away from it at the same time, despite accepting that Aang is clearly the Avatar and therefore needs a guard. Commander Gideon hears Zuko demanding to see maps and information and is instantly suspicious. Nobody just saw Spy just for the fun of it. Iroh tries to divert attention from Zuko's blundering by coming up with a fake story about researching some kind of fish. Sokka is washing up and oh my goodness, she's a peeping Tom! Thomasina, hey you! Apologize! He is uncomfortable. Apologize and leave. Katara reads stick figures to figure out how to waterbend, and Aang says she's a natural. Katara tries to get him to waterbend with her, but Aang says maybe later. Katara reminds him that he shouldn't shirk his responsibilities, and they play in the water. Our three heroes have a feast all to themselves. Aang shows off to the local children, and Sokka is not impressed. Katara says Aang is good at talking to people, just as the young Avatar gives himself blunt force trauma. Stern Lady and her daughter talk about visitors and the harm they can bring. Stern Lady mentions the war in the past that the daughter missed, while Suki uncomfortably eyes Sokka. Girl, would you back off? This is not cute. Commander Gideon is informed that Zuko caught the Avatar and then lost him. Gideon is determined to do better than the spoiled prince. Sokka trains. Suki jump scares him. Even though as a warrior herself, she should know it's not a good idea to sneak up on people who have weapons in their hands. Sokka brags about his skills, and Suki tries to look like she's listening before her fan defies the laws of physics and decapitates all the poor melons. You guys are going to make sure that food doesn't go to waste, right? Sokka is impressed with Suki's skill and tries to save face, saying he's better at hand-to-hand combat, and Suki wordlessly challenges him. Sokka loses because clearly this is an attack move. Sokka understandably walks away after that poor sportsmanship from Suki, leaving her wondering what's wrong, because clearly she wasn't at fault. Aang and Katara investigate Avatar Kyoshi's temple, and Aang admits he fears hurting people, and we get a flashback scene where we see Aang narrowly avoid becoming a child murderer. He says everyone feared him, and we all remember from the first episode how the air nomads looked at him fearfully as he flew around. Katara tells Aang he is all the Avatars. Zuko notices Gideon's boat is missing. A random stranger overhears them and stops by to tell them that Gideon left to go to Kyoshi Island to investigate reports of a flying cow being spotted. Zuko correctly deduces Gideon knows about the Avatar and says they had to go after him. Suki trains her warriors with the same command that gets different results. Suki catches Sokka trying to copy their moves and wordlessly offers to train him using noises. You do not need to be that close to him. Run, Sokka, it's a trap! Aang attempts to connect to Avatar Kyoshi, and there's a light beam. We now meet TCAP's favorite character. Anyway, Kyoshi berates this child who has been asleep 100 years and woken up in a time period where everything he knows has ended. Zuko angrily asks, "Can't we go faster?" Despite having been on the ship for 3 years, he's still clueless as to its speed capabilities. After less than a day of training, Sokka is becoming an expert, and he tries to be honest with Suki about his role at home, but Suki distracts him by randomly and magically removing her face paint. Stern Lady is watching them without announcing her presence. Well, at least we now know where Suki gets it. Don't do it! Don't you dare! Saved by the bell. Katara tries to wake Aang, but he's a deep sleeper. Kyoshi lectures Aang on what it means to be the Avatar. Zuko is upset Gideon beats him to the island, but Iroh calms him down by pointing out the Avatar statue. Gideon's troops march into the village. He and Stern Lady trade words before Gideon dispatches his troops to search the place. Stern Lady dooms her village by attacking.
Fatality.
Katara sees Zuko approaching and calmly leaves Aang. Kyoshi withholds answers from Aang because every Avatar is different. Aang admits again that he fears hurting people, but Kyoshi gets angry and tells him more people will get hurt if he doesn't Avatar up. Kyoshi says she was like Aang once before she took an arrow to the knee, and she shows Aang a vision of death and destruction. The Firebenders are being defeated by non-Earthbenders. Sokka uses Zuki's fan to block a fireball, and Gideon is dumbfounded. Despite winning their individual fights, Sokka, Suki, and Suki's mom cower behind a building, and Stern Lady angrily demands, "Where is the Avatar child?" Katara stands out in the open, awaiting Zuko's arrival. Zuko warns her not to stand against him, but she studies stick figures and takes out his soldiers. Zuko fires back. Katara has an inconvenient flashback. Zuko threatens to barbecue her. Kyoshi takes over Aang's body without permission and defeats Zuko. Kyoshi then sonic booms into the village, and Katara magically teleports there as well. Kyoshi creates a fire-water tornado to toss the firebenders around, but fear not, no firebenders were killed during the scene. Gideon retreats, and Kyoshi leaves Aang's body to drop into the dirt. Aang admits his guilt for bringing the Fire Nation to the island. Suki says he should leave. The Fire Nation won't care about the village that has defied them. Their only concern will be the Avatar. Stern Lady says nothing was destroyed that cannot be built again. Nice job, Avatar. Suki takes Sokka aside, and they wish that they had more time. Somebody stop them! We have definitely not developed this enough. Suki gives Sokka her favorite fan blade. They finally leave the island. Aang says he can only call upon his past Avatar selves when he's in their temples, and that they need to get to the Northern Water Tribe because something bad is going to happen there. Gideon defends his actions to Zuko and Iroh and hopes they could put their misunderstandings behind them. Zuko demands Gideon tell no one about the Avatar, and Gideon agrees, proposing they work together to capture the Avatar. Zuko wants to say no, but Iroh agrees. Gideon immediately breaks his word and writes to the Fire Nation Lord about the Avatar. And that's it, an episode. So, while watching this episode, there were a few things that struck me as odd in how they were written. First is Zuko and Iroh trying not to let Gideon know that they are in pursuit of the Avatar. Zuko was banished 3 years ago, and in that time, he has been chasing every rumor, every perceived sighting of the Avatar, who has been missing 100 years. How has he been doing this without anyone knowing and gossiping about it? Zuko's mission should be one that the commanders like Gideon are laughing at behind Zuko's back, because given how long the Avatar has been missing, it should be seen as an impossible quest. So when Iroh and Zuko show up at Gideon's outpost looking for information, he should laughingly let them have it, perhaps even with a few pointed comments to humiliate Zuko. What gets Gideon suspicious is that instead of getting angry, Zuko smirks and acts super confident that he will find the Avatar. Thinking something happened, Gideon dispatches his second-in-command to ply the lieutenant on Zuko's ship with wine and get him to talk, and thus learns that way that Zuko did indeed catch an airbender and then lost him. While pondering on what he should do, a new report comes in about spotting a flying cow off the shore of Kyoshi Island. Gideon quickly leaves on his ship to see if the airbender is there. Now, instead of a random stranger coming up and telling Zuko and Iroh where Gideon went, we instead have Iroh talk to a soldier in the market when they first arrive at the outpost. This soldier could be one who had served with Iroh's son or simply a soldier Iroh helped. This soldier then, to repay Iroh's kindness, watches Gideon leave and reports it to Iroh. This way, Zuko's ship leaves not too far behind Gideon's, and they arrive at the island within a few minutes of each other. Thus, we eliminate the stranger coincidentally knowing where Gideon has gone and passing by Zuko and Iroh at the right time to tell them. We also add more to Zuko's character, not only having been banished, but having had to endure 3 years of ridicule from outpost commanders, soldiers, and citizens who should have been giving him the respect his title deserves. Oh, and in case anyone is curious as to why I'm calling this guy Gideon, I know his name is Zhao, but every time he speaks, and even his facial expressions, remind me of Moff Gideon from The Mandalorian, especially when they're giving speeches. They both deliver their lines with a, "I'm trying to be intimidating and villain, but I'm pausing after every word for dramatic effect." His character introduction in this episode, and then every time he's on screen afterwards, I just got the feeling that he was a shadow of his cartoon self, like there was supposed to be so much more there. But as I said, it reminded me of Gideon, and Gideon was never someone I found intimidating. He definitely tried. He tried to be on the same level as Vader or Dooku, but he just came off as more cartoonish. And Zhao is that way as well. I'm a villain. You can't trust what I say. I will go back on my word. What's next? Oh yes. Sokka and Suki's romance, or lack thereof. So, the interactions between them are fine up to the scene where Suki is just standing there watching Sokka bathe. And when he turns around, she continues to just stand there, staring very obviously at his chest, and when he is uncomfortable, trying to cover himself, she does not apologize, nor does she turn away. This scene, that is never mentioned again, and could be cut out, mars every interaction these two characters have for the rest of the episode. It undermines Suki coming to respect Sokka and teach him her fighting style, and the two of them growing closer and then kissing when Sokka is going to leave. Because with this scene, every time Suki looks at Sokka, you know she's picturing him without a shirt. She is eyeing him, not as a teenager like her, being forced to take on more responsibility than either of them were ready for, not as a fellow warrior, but as an object to lust after. And the fact that she never apologizes shows that she does not see this right here as wrong. She does not see Sokka on an equal level as herself, and the fact that she doesn't understand how wrong it was to attack Sokka, who was clearly just stretching and not ready, just further highlights how out of touch Suki is with basic common courtesy and social interactions. Now, if both of these scenes were used to teach, rather than just being there and forgotten as soon as they are over, it will be different. What I mean is this: so in the first scene, Suki walks in on Sokka bathing and he reacts appropriately, grabbing for his shirt and berating her for not knocking. We can then have a discussion about the difference between their two cultures. For Suki lives in a warmer climate, so she has seen boys take off their shirts to go swimming, while Sokka is from a very cold area, and any bathing is done in the privacy of one's home and done as quickly as possible. Suki then apologizes, stating being isolated on the island may keep her people protected, but it has limited her knowledge of other people and their ways. At the scene in the woods when Sokka was training, first, don't have Suki teleport behind Sokka. Let her approach him, curious about his training, and they can talk about the different methods they both studied under to learn martial arts. When Suki challenges Sokka to a spar, if she attacks him like this, Sokka needs to call her out. If he doesn't, then at least her mother, who stops by to watch, or somebody, needs to tell Suki what she did was wrong. Besting someone who is clearly just stretching and was not ready is not a worthy example of your fighting skills, nor is it an honorable thing for a warrior to do in what should have been just a friendly spar. The fact that these two are teenagers, underage, let me stress that, and Suki is held to no accountability in how she acts towards Sokka, and they kiss at the end, just infuriates me. Okay, anything else? Let's see, oh yeah, the scene where Kyoshi takes over Aang's body to defeat the firebenders. Since this is something the show has introduced as possible, then every time Aang is near a temple of the previous avatar and he gets attacked, one of his previous selves should take over to defeat his enemies. Aang even says he can't do it unless he's near an avatar temple. So why the Airbender avatar didn't take over Aang to calm him down when he had a fit in episode 1 is a mystery. I think that's it for this episode. Those were the main points I wanted to talk about. Oh, a question for all of you. What is wrong with girls in TV show nowadays? Because I watched the new Percy Jackson Disney show, and Annabeth stalks Percy when he gets to Camp Half-Blood, and just stands aside while he gets bullied by 3 or 4 other kids. And then we have Suki here invading Sokka's personal space more than once, and neither she nor Annabeth seem to realize why any of their actions are wrong. Anyway, that's all I got for now. Here's hoping I get to episode 3 a lot quicker. Until next time, everyone, take care, and may you all find a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Farewell.